What's up, everybody? It's Steel Sea Roundtable time. As always, I am coming to you from Lebanon Junction, Kentucky. On my way down to Alabama. So another night in the truck. I'm going to be out for a week this time. But I kind of got away from the 12-step thing that I was doing a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to get back at it. It's going to be a short one tonight. I got to get up, got to drive about 600 miles tomorrow just to get to where I'm going. And then unload my freight and then reload and come back up to Pittsburgh about 990 miles, 980 miles. So it's good stuff. I'm going to wait a couple minutes, see if anybody comes on. Like I said in my last podcast, I am no longer giving you guys a schedule because I am horrible with time management and I never stick to that schedule. So I'm just going to get on when I can. You'll probably see a lot more TikTok lives because, being in the truck, I got a little bit of time to myself without the dogs and my wife jumping up and down and my wife saying baby 75 times and everybody just, getting in my business. So I covered step 1 and 2. And this is about 3 weeks ago. Step 1, we admitted that we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 2 is like a preparatory step. It's not really an action step. Like I said before, we have action steps and we have preparatory steps. Step 1 is an action step. Step 2, we're preparing for something bigger. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So I'm going to break that down a little bit for those of you who aren't involved in 12-step programs. A lot of people don't like 12-step programs because they believe they're religious and they're culty and blah, 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 blah. So I was one of those people. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, they are not culty. They are not religious. Okay. I'm going to read that word for word because I usually paraphrase everything. But step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So I'm going to break that down, but we got to go back to go forward. So as I was saying, a lot of people think that the 12 steps are culty and religious. And listen, if you look at it, the 12 steps came from a religious group. Okay. It was founded by people that were in the church. The initial ideas that were put together. And there's a lot of God talk in AA. And that's not a bad thing. But there is a lot of God talk. Now, it's not talking about God saying that you have to do this, you have to do that. It's not like going to church or, going to confession and having somebody tell you, say 12 Hail Marys and blah, 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 and everything's going to be fine. It doesn't work that way. In AA, the idea of God and the idea of a higher power are interchangeable, okay? They're separate but interchangeable. This is only my take. So when you go back to step 2, where you come to believe in a power greater than ourselves will return us to sanity, that's your higher power, right? That's something in this universe that you believe in strongly enough that you believe that idea, thing, person, being, situation, higher power will help you fix yourself. You will give control over to that higher power, and that higher power will lead you to your own serenity, salvation, redemption, rebirth, whatever you want to call it. So, when you're new to AA, and this is one of the things that can turn you off in a heartbeat, when they talk about higher power, they talk about God. Okay. Now, like I said, they're interchangeable and they're separate. Now, the key thing to know is that when they talk about God, there's a little phrase that comes after it, step 3. I'm going to read it one more time. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Now listen, as we understood him. What does that mean? That means that the idea of God, the higher power, it's our decision what it is. Now, it can either be God, it could be a family member, it could be your career. For me, coming out of rehab, it was AA. I needed AA to stay sober. So, hold on one second. What the hell is this? Okay. I needed AA to stay sober. I needed some structure in my life because I had none. And for me, the structure was that if I drank, I could not go to AA because I would be a hypocrite. Now, this is my messed up way of thinking, and that's what kept me going back to AA, and that's what helped me stay sober in those first 6-9 months. The belief that AA would keep me sober as long as I would go and put my effort into it and be honest and bear the truth. And that was big for me. Now, was it God? No. Is it God now? No. But my higher power, or my God as I see him, see her, understood him, to me, it's not about dedicating yourself to God or Jehovah or any religion. That's not what it's about. What it's about is having a spiritual change, a spiritual revelation. And your spirituality is however you make it. You know, to me, my spirituality was AA. I needed to go to AA because that's where I could find some reliefs. That's where I could find relief. And that's where I could keep my shit together. Now, a lot of people turn to God right out of the gate. And that's okay. You know, some people, their higher power will be God. I would say probably 80% of AA people, there will be God as their higher power. Now, that's not good, that's not bad, that's not right, that's not wrong. It's just the way it works. Whatever you need to do, whatever we need to believe in order to maintain our sobriety, that's what we do. We believe in that thing, that idea, right? And it could change over time. Mine started as AA. Then I started the podcast, and the podcast became my higher power. You know, I felt that I needed to do this type of thing in order to maintain my sobriety because I was giving up control to an aspect of what I say and what I do. I allowed myself to speak freely, and I did that wholeheartedly, and I did that with no concerns over what you think about me. Good, bad, and different. You know, but that's what works for me. You know, and I have started to go back to church. Me and my wife are going to church, and it's awesome. You know, I'm starting to form my own relationship with God on my terms, on how I want to take the information, evaluate it, think about it, and determine whether or not it works for me. Now, you may be a God person. You may believe that God is the answer to everything. Good for you. Stay sober, believe in God, and it's going to work for you. But if you're like me, and you're a self-proclaimed former atheist, it's not going to work that way. You're going to have to dig down deep and find something that you are not in control of, that you are going to turn to help guide you through your struggles and help you maintain your sobriety. And once again, it could be anything. You know, it could be a chair. You know, it could be like, you know, Anchorman, brick love lamp. I mean, who cares? Whatever you have to believe in, do it, and do it 100%. Because if you're believing in something else and you're giving up control of things in your life and you're putting your faith in something else, it's got to go better than what we've been doing. Right? I mean, for me, 34 years of heavy drinking, nothing I was doing was working. It was all an epic failure. You know, I mean, you know my story. And if you don't, check into the podcast when I put one up and you'll find out more about my story. But I got to that point where there were no answers anymore. There were no excuses anymore. There was just a desire to stop living the way I was living. Now, that goes back to step one, of course, but, sticking with step three. It's God as we understand him, however you want to put it, present tense, past tense, doesn't matter. So when you're going through the 12 steps, don't listen to the people that tell you have to believe in God. Don't listen to the people that tell you that God is the only way you're going to get sober and stay sober, because it's not true. Now, for me, God has become a part of my recovery. I'm not born again. I'm not saved like some of my friends. I'm just a guy that goes to church, listens to a cool dude talk about a story. I can relate to him. He's younger. He's gone through a lot of shit. So I like the guy, and I like listening to him. And a lot of what he says hits home with me in my life. But God is still not my higher power, and it doesn't make it wrong. Don't let anybody at AA or any 12-step program tell you that if you don't believe in God, you won't get sober, because that's a bunch of bullshit. Okay? And getting sober is the easy part. Staying sober is the hard part. And if you have a higher power and you give up your control and you start letting some of these things flow over your back and not absorb all the bad energy and all the negative thoughts and negative feelings, things are going to get better. They have to. When you make a change, you're not doing it because you want to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing it because you want something different. So if you're having problems finding your higher power, just sit down. Think about the things in your life. Think about what makes you feel good. Think about what motivates you to do good things. If you can find something that helps promote a selfless mentality, a helpful mentality, not a me thing, but a we thing. If you can find something that puts you in that direction, then go with it, but realize that it is like anything else in addiction, anything else in recovery. It's going to grow, evolve, and maybe even change. You may go through different higher powers, and that's okay too, as long as you remember that we do not control the universe. We are not the center of the universe. We are not even a pimple on the universe's ass. But when you have a selfless mentality and you want to help other people and you have something that you believe in that helps promote that behavior, life is going to get better. I guarantee it. And it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in 20 minutes. It's going to be work. And it's going to be daily, and it's going to be hourly, and it's going to be by the minute sometimes. You're just going to have to fight. But think of it this way. Think of a carpenter. Carpenter has tools, all kinds of tools for every situation, for pulling panels, for putting nails in wood, for cutting wood, for drilling. They have everything, right? Especially carpenters, they have everything. I mean, I wish I was a carpenter because I like their tools. But if you take away their hammer, you handicap their ability to do their job. So if you take away your higher power, if you take away the willingness to give up control, these are tools in your chest to help maintain your sobriety and your mental health and live a good life and not be a dry drunk and be miserable all the time. Because happiness is what we're after, folks. We're after freedom from addiction. We're after freedom from poor mental health. And we're after an enjoyable, happy, helpful, selfless life. And I think it's possible for all of us to attain that, no matter how many times we slip up, no matter how many times we make mistakes or revert to our old behaviors. I mean, I do it all the time. Just ask Chiquita. I'm always reverting to my old behaviors and doing dumb shit. But at the end of the day, I am willing to understand and be open to the idea that I am not in control. And I am open to the idea of new things. And I think, that's a big part of step 3. because, in step 2, you're willing to do this. You're willing to give your control up, right? In step 3, you do that. So in order to do that, you have to be open to things that go on around you in the world and in front of your eyes and in your circle and outside of your circle, because one day you may just find that higher power. And if you haven't found it, don't freak out. It took me a long time to get where I'm at. Literally, like in 2 weeks, I'm three years sober. And I just in the last 6 months started going back to church and started building a spiritual relationship with God. And my higher power has changed about 4 times. Now it's a combination of my wife, my dogs, and the podcast and doing this stuff. These are the things that make me want to be better. These are the things that when I'm having a bad day, I can turn to them and be like, I just don't know right now. And it's okay to not know. It's okay not to have the answers. It's better to not have the answers than to be that guy that thinks they always have the answers, but you don't, and you're wrong, and you make an ass out of yourself, and you just make things worse. So I'm going to let you go with this tonight, guys. I'll be back soon, probably tomorrow night, maybe the night after that, whatever. Like I said, no schedule. But just remember, it's very important that you find a higher power. If you're doing the 12-step programs, you have to find a higher power. You have to find something that you put faith in that isn't you. Because guess what, folks? We put our faith in ourselves for a long, long time. And listen to Uncle Marky when he tells you, it doesn't always work out so good. So find that higher power, be open to ideas and new experiences, and be willing to let control go. So just remember, share, help, repeat. I love you guys, and I'll see you again soon.
It is 11:30 in Alabama. So that's where I'm at tonight. But it is 12:30 back in Pittsburgh. So I'm back again doing another little TikTok live with you guys. A couple things real quick. We are coming out with some merchandise. This is the first thing we have. This is our pretty little Steel City Roundtable nicotine pouch containers. We're going to have a bunch of stuff up on our website. Hopefully it'll be done this week. I'll get it back up and running. We're going to show a bunch of stuff, and it's going to be made to order stuff, t-shirts, coach purses, all kinds of different things. We're not doing it to make a profit. We're basically going to charge just enough to pay for shipping. But we just want to get some merchandise out there, spread the word. Steel City Roundtable is here, and we are here to stay. And we are here to help others at the debasement of myself, for lack of a better word. Today, I had a busy day, a 14-hour day, drove about 614 miles. Long days, long days in the truck. These type of days used to be difficult for me. I couldn't do the kind of work I'm doing now because I couldn't sit in the truck by myself for 600 miles and not lose my money. Because I was so miserable all the time, with my negative thoughts and all my depression and the things that were going on in my head, that it was almost impossible for me to sit in the truck by myself. So I did local work, home every day, still worked a lot of hours, but I didn't spend time in a luxurious Kenworth T6 luxurious Kenworth T680 2026 model, diamond package, baby. There's TV, but I couldn't spend time by myself, extended periods of time. And since the changes that I've made, I finally got to the point where I was like, I'll give it a shot. And no lie, I'm loving this job. I'm loving what I do now. Granted, I'm away from Chiquita for a week. Every couple weeks I go away for a week. And, I'm not gonna lie, honey, if you're watching, it's nice to wake up in the morning and not have to have a conversation 13 seconds after I wake up. I love you, but it's nice to wake up slowly, drive a few miles, and then talk to you on the phone once in a week. But just remember, you're everything, babe. But what am I going to talk about today? I don't know. I never know what I'm going to talk about. But let's talk about long days. What do you do to prepare yourself when you know you're going to have a stressful day, or you know that you're going to be running all day long, and you're going to be busy. You're going to be burning both ends of the candle, and you're just going to be beat by the time the day's over, which you know it's going to be that way from the beginning. Give you an example. I left Pittsburgh yesterday at noon. It took me 2 days of driving, almost 17 and a half hours of driving between the 2 days to get to my delivery. That's not even doing any manual labor. That's just the drive. It was like 1,000 miles. And, you see that, and it's like, holy shit, I have to drive 2 days before I even get to where I'm going. And then I have to come back, make deliveries, pick up freight, and drive 1,000 miles back to Pittsburgh. So legitimately, it's 2 days of driving, 1 day of working, and 2 more days of driving just to get home. So how do you prepare for those days? Well, Uncle Marky always likes to be honest at the sacrifice of his own image, because like it or love it, I don't care what you think about me. All I care is that you listen and you form your own opinions and you take this for what it is. And it's just me telling my story so that hopefully you see some similarities or some differences. Something may help you, something may steer you in a different direction. But at the end of the day, I honestly don't care what you think about me. I just want you to listen to the messages and the things that I say and take them for what they are. Just a drunk with mental health issues trying to steer you in a better direction than the direction they took. But so here, I see this week, and I'm like 2 days of driving, a day of working, 2 hours of driving, 2 days of driving. Like, how am I going to get through that? In the past, I would probably pull into a truck stop at the end of the day, park the truck, go inside, because they sell booze now. I'd probably get a 6-pack or a 12-pack or whatever I could get, walk out of there with without going back in a second time, which I'd probably go in a second time later anyway. But I would get drunk and pass out, because by the time I got to where I was going, my brain was so screwed up, my nerves were so shot that I couldn't function, and I had to drink, because that was the only way I knew to calm myself down enough so that I could go to sleep. Now, granted, I did some road work in the past, in my heyday of drinking, and it was not easy, and it was not fun. But so a trip like this, I'd be hammered every night, hungover driving, and that was the way I dealt with it. Now, the way I deal with it is that it's actually pretty calming to drive. Seeing parts of the country I've never been to. So I'm pretty excited when I'm going to go through Tennessee. I'm going to go through Alabama. I haven't been to Tennessee since I was a kid. And I'd never been to Alabama before 2.5 weeks ago. But now I look at it as an opportunity for me to see beautiful parts of the country that I'm not familiar with. It's time for me to think. Time for me to, figure out my next move at home. Example, they just put a roof on my house today. $9,000 for a roof. CJ's Roofing in Pittsburgh. Better known company. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Thought Goat 1. I have a wife and 2 dogs. Geos 123. Yeah, I'm in a tractor trailer. I drive a Kenworth T680 sleeper. And right now I am in a pilot truck stop parking lot. I just got a workout at. I sit in the front of the truck with rubber bands doing a workout off the front of the truck. Went in, took a shower. I figured I'd hit you guys up for a little bit before I eat dinner and sack out for the night, because I got another long day tomorrow. But like I was saying, now it's an opportunity for me to think, and not in a negative way. Not in a negative way, but in a positive way. OTR, I'm kind of a hybrid driver. Thought go one every 2 weeks, well, every 3 weeks, every third week I'm out for a week. Then the rest of the time I'm out 2 to 3 nights a week. So this week will be a long week. Then I'll have 2 weeks where I work some more local days, and then I go back out and I'll run back down this week because we have a customer down in Calvert, Alabama that we go to every 3 weeks. Um, but I get to think about positive things. I get to think about, what am I going to do when I go home? How am I going to spend my time with my wife? Am I going to cut the grass this week? Am I going to continue to dig ditches in my yard like I'm a gopher to try to plant grass? What's my next move retirement wise? Like all these positive things that I can think about because I'm by myself. And I enjoy, not a tanker, not hazmat. I haul a Conestoga wagon, 48-foot trailer, split axle. It's nice to be able to think of the things that I'm going to do when I go home. I can think a little bit further out than what I normally would be able to do when I was drinking. So it's cool, it's really cool that I get to enjoy my life and enjoy my time in the truck. These are the things that open up to you when you fix your issues, when you come to terms with who you are as a person, what your character flaws are, and how to go about changing yourself to make yourself the best version of what is inside of you. I used to say I want to be the best version of what's left of me. And through my recovery, I've learned that there's a whole lot left. There's more in front of me than there is behind me. Real quick, Goat One, I've been driving a truck for a total of about 12 years. It was 5 years, and then I worked as a police officer for 12, and then I got back in the truck, and I've been doing it for about 6 years, so about 11 years. When I made the changes, and I started to be aware of myself and aware of who I am as a person, and the things that I need to change, the things that I need to fix, the things that I like about myself, it opened up a whole new world for me. It made me available emotionally, mentally, for me to meet Chiquita and get married. Those are the kind of things that never would have been an opportunity for me. Because I'll be honest with you, I had relationships in my lifetime. I was married once, but none of them were ever based off of a connection. They weren't based off of the feeling that I didn't want to go on without this person. The true essence of the idea of love is that I care more about my wife than I do myself. I care more about our relationship than I do my needs, my desires. I still want to drink sometimes. I still want to go golfing. I take my wife. I still want to go to the gym. I drop her off at the gym, and then I go to the gym, and I pick her up, and we go home. Literally now, I look forward to going home at the end of this week. I am super excited because I bought her something today. She's going to love it. So you guys real quick. Hold on. Chiquita, if you're watching, close your eyes. So I bought this at the truck stop today because my wife wants me to buy her something in every state that I'm in. Now, I thought that was pretty cool. When I go home, I spend both my days with my wife. Saturday and Sunday are me and my wife. We don't go anywhere without each other except to the gym because she goes to some fruity gym and I go to a gym, where they have weights and stuff that you lift. She goes, I don't know what she does, slither around on the floor like a snake, does downward facing monkey, whatever they're called. She does all that weird stuff that I can't do because physically I'm incapable. But, I look forward to the moments that I get to spend with my wife now. In my previous relationships, I was always neurotic about shit. It always had to be my way. It was always more about me controlling the situation because the only time I was happy was when I was in control. Guys, you're married, you know what it's like. Women, you know what it's like. Women have control of the marriage. Honestly, we all know that. men don't admit it, but we know it. We just act tough and try to throw our weight around and try to make you do what we want you to do, which never works out. Now, add on top of that a Latina, which, gentlemen who are with Latinas, you know the pain that I suffer. You know what I go through on a daily basis. So I'm not going to go into it too deep. That's for another night. But being able to appreciate the other partner for who they are and for their differences, and to appreciate the bond that you form, and appreciate that you can communicate. Like, it's an amazing thing. I've never had a relationship where I could communicate and tell the other person everything about me. I mean, literally, my first date with my wife, we met, I went and picked her up. We went to this neighborhood called Squirrel Hill. It's in Pittsburgh. It's like a Jewish neighborhood, but they got a lot of great restaurants. It's a pretty affluent neighborhood in general. But there was this restaurant that I liked there. I think it was called the Silk Village. And I picked her up, and she was looking amazing. Wearing tight black. I think she was wearing tight black pants, high hooker boots. I think that's what it was. I've been hitting the head a lot, so I don't know things. But I couldn't find the restaurant, so we walked around for like 45 minutes up and down the street looking for the restaurant until we decided to just go in someplace and get dinner. And then, 10 minutes into the conversation, I was telling her that I was 10 months sober, that I'm a head case, that, are you sure you want to go out with me because I'm a total freaking nut job? And I laid it all on the line in the first date. And, doing that was something I never could have done before. And honestly, I was thinking she was going to turn tail and run away as fast as she could. But here we are married, and, things are great. But once again, once we make those changes, once we backtrack, once we become aware of who we are and what makes us tick, and we are no longer afraid of making a mistake or afraid of someone judging us or afraid of upsetting someone because you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. When that moment comes in your life, it's absolutely amazing because it's freedom. It's freedom to be who you are. It's freedom to grasp on to the past as not as a negative, but as a building block, as the foundation of who you want to become. And it took me a very long time to get there. And, sometimes when you think about your past, there's a lot of negative there. I mean, it's just a fact. If you're an addict or you're struggling, you've left some dumpster fires behind. You've hurt some people, you've done things that you're not proud of. And I mean, that's just part of who we are as humans. We aren't perfect, we make mistakes. But being able to accept your mistakes and accept the things that you've done, you don't have to be proud about it. You don't have to like it. Guess what, folks? Dirty shit gets you dirty. You aren't going to walk out of this unscathed if you're anything like me. You're going to have, a price to pay in the long haul. You're going to have to apologize to people. You're going to have to say you're sorry. You're going to have to realize that there's people that just aren't going to talk to you anymore. There's people that want nothing to do with you anymore because of who you were and what you did. But once again, that doesn't make you a bad person. What makes you a quote-unquote bad person is when you know what you're doing, you know that you're hurting people, and you continue to do it intentionally, knowingly, and voluntarily. That, I think, is what makes you a bad person. I think if your goal is to go out there and manipulate and hurt people, you're a bad person. I'm sorry. But if you do that, I don't want to say unintentionally, because everything we do is somewhat intentional, right? Like everything we do has some type of intent to it. Whether or not the intent is to hurt somebody or not, that's what makes the difference. Now, I hurt a lot of people. I know this, but I don't think, looking back on things, that I wanted to hurt people. I think due to my drinking problem and due to my inability to deal with my own problems, I lashed out at people and I did everything I could to protect myself. There wasn't any part of me that was worried about hurting someone else. And it wasn't an intentional thought. It was just, I was so concerned about how I was going to make it through that day and how I was going to get it to the next day and through the next day and through the next day. So everything I did was self-preservation. I said it before. Addiction is a sickness. But we don't choose to be addicts. We choose to use that substance or take that drink in the beginning. And we choose to continue to do that. And at some point, the body and the mind just take over and say, you know what, dude, this is what we do. This is the easiest way. We're going to do this forever. We do have a say in the process. And it's not to pick up a drink. And it's not to pick up a drug. Or it's to pick it up, do it, and not pick it up again. Or learn how to be a reasonable adult and control that thing that we do. If you're wired like me, it's just not possible. Excuse me. I have an addictive personality. I do everything 100%. I do everything balls to the wall, and that's just the way I am. Ask Chiquita. I drive her nuts. But, I know I bounce around a lot tonight. I just got a lot of things that I want to talk about, and I can't keep my train of thought. But what I've learned in the last 3 years is that one of the biggest things we have to do, if you want to heal as a person, from whatever affliction it is, alcoholism, addiction, sexaholic, gambling, Pokemon freak, whatever it is, we have to know how we operate. We have to know what makes us tick and what sets us off and what makes us happy and what makes us angry and what makes us sad. We need to know these things. We need to know our character flaws. We need to know our defects. Sorry, bad word. Defect is suggesting there's something wrong with us. Our own issues, our own, problems and concerns. And when we finally open ourselves up to be honest enough with ourselves to say, hey, Mark, you talk to her like you're an asshole. You talk to him like you're a dick. You treat people like shit. You don't care about anybody else but yourself. Once you know that those are things that you're doing, you can work on these things. But once again, what makes us a bad person is when we know we're hurting people and we do it intentionally. And I think, there's a lot of unintentional things that we do. But always remember, folks, there's a little bit of intent in everything that we do. It may not be to be a bastard and to hurt people and to treat people like shit. But our actions, we choose to make them. We can't hide behind addiction. We can't hide behind mental health and say, oh, I didn't know I was doing this. Or, oh, I get a pass because I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic. You don't get a pass for being a douche. You don't. I've never gotten one. I don't plan on getting one, and I don't want one. Because the more I work on me and the more I get kicked in the face by the things that I've done, the stronger my resolve is to be a better version of me. The stronger my resolve is to never drink again because I don't like that person. That Mark, I don't even recognize that person anymore. So, at the end of this whole diatribe of me running my mouth, the bottom line is we can continue to do the things we do. We can continue to hurt people. We can continue to hurt ourselves and be naive and be blocked off to what makes us tick and who we are and why we do what we do. You can do that if you want. But Uncle Mark is going to tell you, if you do it that way, you're never going to find happiness. And if you do, it's going to be some hollow, self-serving happiness. Not true happiness where you wake up in the morning and you're glad to be there and you go to bed at night and you like who you are. If you want those things in life, you got to become aware and you got to do something about it. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to fix your shit. I'm just telling you, if you got a problem, if you're treating people like shit, then fix it. You're the only person that can. And until you do, you will probably see the same results. You will probably suffer the same pain and the same emotional trauma that you suffer when you hurt people. So put your best foot forward. Listen to Uncle Marky when he tells you life does get better when you do something about what you're doing wrong. So make a change for the better. Make a change for yourself. And I hope you find happiness. I hope you find your serenity, your redemption, whatever it is you're looking for. And remember always, share share our experiences so we can help others and do it every chance you get. I'll talk to you soon. I love you guys. Good night.